Season 1 of Cross introduces the titular detective and forensic psychologist Alex Cross, who is still grieving the murder of his wife Maria 1 year prior. Cross has spent the last year obsessively searching for Maria's killer, all the while trying to care for his 2 children, Damon and Janelle. Cross's grandmother Nana Mama moves in with the family to help care for them during this difficult time. Cross's new girlfriend Elle encourages him to make new happy memories with his children, while Cross's best friend and partner John Sampson urges him to seek therapy after having to report him for assaulting an innocent man wrongly suspected to be Maria's killer. While trying to ensure his children's emotional well-being, Cross encourages Damon to hone his prodigious piano skills with a new instructor from the early Mozart program, Miss Nancy. Amidst Cross's personal turmoil, a new serial killer begins terrorizing the DC area. Dubbed the Fanboy, this murderer kills their victims as part of elaborate recreations of the deaths of infamous serial killers. When Black Lives Matter activist Amir Goodspeed is found dead, Police Chief April Anderson assigns Cross and Sampson the case. Amir had been a public advocate for defunding the police, and many from the public blame his death on the cops. Fearing for her political future, Chief Anderson and her loyal Lieutenant Massey pressure Cross and Sampson to blame Amir's death on an overdose to evade further scrutiny. But Cross and Sampson refuse to obey orders, believing Amir to be the latest victim of the Fanboy. Unbeknownst to Cross, the Fanboy's true identity is Ed Ramsey, an extremely wealthy political operative whose incriminating dirt against various politicians has gained him incredible power and clout. Ramsey is obsessed with famous serial killers and believes that by perfectly replicating all of their deaths and executions, he will join them in infamy. Ramsey's next target to fulfill his masterwork is a woman named Shannon Witmer, who he kidnaps with the intention of making her his final victim. While working Amir's case, Cross seeks assistance from Sampson's FBI agent lover, Kayla Craig. Kayla helps him track down the last person Amir spoke to on the phone before he died, his friend Tavio. But as the pair apprehend Tavio to question him, he is murdered by the secret assassin Bobby Trey, a former cop on Ramsey's payroll. Cross and Sampson next follow a lead to a vacant mansion that was potentially where Amir was held captive before being murdered. Cross and Sampson tear the building apart, searching for any incriminating evidence, unaware that below their feet is the Fanboy's secret soundproof bunker, where Shannon is screaming for help. Knowing it is only a matter of time before the police find them, Bobby Trey extorts Ramsey out of $2 million to help whisk Shannon away moments before Cross and Sampson finally find the now empty bunker. Though they fail to rescue Shannon, Cross and Sampson do find the Fanboy's scrapbook, detailing with photos all of his past murders. Ramsey is furious over these setbacks, now forced to keep the captured Shannon in his own home, while demanding that Bobby Trey recover his prized scrapbook, which he views as his ultimate work of art. As Cross draws closer to uncovering the Fanboy's identity, he must also contend with Maria's murderer returning to stalk their family. When Cross finds a dress placed on Maria's grave, he realizes that he is being targeted for revenge due to his handling of a past case involving a violent killer named Deirdre. Deirdre had been sentenced to life in prison thanks in large part to Cross's testimony that she was an emotionless psychopath who had no hope of changing. While serving her sentence, Deirdre instead died, leaving Cross feeling guilty for his words. Meanwhile, Kayla helps Cross connect the mansion to Ed Ramsey. When Cross's girlfriend Elle receives an invite to a party hosted by Ramsey, Cross accompanies her, hoping to secretly gather evidence against the suspected Fanboy killer. During the party, Shannon manages to escape, running into Senator Caitlin Goldman and begging for help. Unfortunately, Ramsey catches Shannon and locks her back up, then threatens the senator to keep his secret. As Cross tries baiting Ramsey into incriminating himself, all of the party guests are sent a video of Cross assaulting the innocent man that he believed to be Maria's killer. As everyone is appalled by Cross's actions, he proclaims that Ramsey must be responsible for leaking the video and that he is the Fanboy. When no one believes Cross, he loses his temper and attacks Ramsey before being thrown thrown out of the party. With Cross now suspended from police work, Sampson vows to continue the mission of exposing Ramsey as the fanboy, but an emotional Cross disavows his friend for not supporting him. Instead, Cross seeks help from Kayla in continuing the investigation on his own. She helps him track down a man named Mike who had been forced by Ramsey years prior to take part in the first fanboy murder. Having lived with immense fear and guilt ever since, Mike agrees to testify against Ramsey. Unfortunately, while being escorted to give his official statement, Mike is secretly murdered by Lieutenant Massey. Cross then tracks down Senator Goldman and gets her to confess having witnessed Shannon's escape attempt at Ramsey's party. With this confession, Cross earns back the trust of his fellow detectives, who join his mission to bring Ramsey down. Reluctantly working together again, Cross and Sampson discover that Massey is working as Ramsey's mole within the police department and had leaked the video of Cross's assault. Sampson confronts Massey, who guiltily confesses to everything, asks Sampson to look after her baby, and then turns herself over to the police. As the police close in on him, Ramsey gathers his fanboy followers to witness Shannon's murder, making himself a god amongst killers. Cross and Sampson arrive just in time to intervene. As Sampson takes Shannon to the hospital, Ramsey fakes his own death, allowing him to escape the morgue and confront his victim once again. As Ramsey is about to kill Shannon once and for all, Cross arrives to arrest him, finally bringing the fanboy to justice. With Ed Ramsey now in police custody, Cross turns his attention back to his stalker. Kayla helps him discover that the perpetrator is Peter Lennox, Deirdre's partner in crime and surrogate brother, seeking revenge for his sister's conviction and death. When Peter attacks Nana Mama and flees, Cross rushes his grandmother to the hospital and tasks Elle with taking his children to a remote cabin owned by Damon's piano teacher, Miss Nancy. As Cross searches for Peter, he calls to check in on his kids, during which Nancy uses a phrase that Deirdre used during her interrogation. Concerned, Cross digs into Nancy's past, discovering that she was a mother figure to both Deirdre and Peter. Desperate to save his children, Cross goes to Sampson for help, apologizing for his behavior since Maria's death and for taking their brotherhood for granted. Sampson accepts this apology and accompanies his friend and partner on a mission to save Elle, Damon, and Janelle. When Cross reaches the cabin, Nancy confronts him at gunpoint, explaining that Deirdre was innocent of murder but died because of Cross's actions. And now Nancy orders Cross to choose which of his innocent children should be killed by Peter. Cross tries to talk Peter down, realizing that Nancy was the one who insisted that Deirdre take the fall for a murder that Peter committed, making it her fault that Deirdre was dead. Before Peter can reckon with Nancy's actions, Sampson arrives and subdues him. When Cross attempts to arrest Nancy, she refuses to go to prison and instead stays behind as her cabin is burned to the ground. In the end, Peter is arrested for Maria's murder and Cross is happily reunited with his family. Cross then visits Ramsey in prison, where the fanboy gloats about living in serial killer infamy, but Cross explains that he will only be charged with Amir's murder and Shannon's kidnapping, as all of the fanboy's other murders are being pinned on Bobby Trey. In exchange for his cooperation and intel on incriminating evidence that Ramsey had compiled to blackmail various DC politicians and power players, Kayla offers Bobby Trey immunity. As Cross departs, Ramsey's left distraught at his ultimate fate of fading into obscurity. Chief Anderson then reinstates Cross to the police force and covers up his attack of an innocent civilian, as she officially announces her campaign to run for mayor and doesn't want a controversy tarnishing her reputation. But a remorseful Cross wants to make amends and films an interview with his victim, explaining he wrongly suspected him of being involved in Maria's murder. Cross vows to not only personally be a better detective, but ensure that he never looks the other way if a fellow officer makes the same profiling mistakes. In the end, Cross goes to therapy, finally ready to open up about his grief for Maria. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and why not check out this recommended video while you're at it.